Hello my fellow book addicts, Megan here, and time for another book review. Today, I'm going to be talking about Bloodbound by Patricia Briggs, and this is the second book in the Mercy Thompson series. Also, I can't remember if I said it in my Mooncalled review, there is a spin-off to the series, the Alpha and Omega series, following a different set of characters. I just want to get this out of the way in case anyone questions it later on. So it happens kind of alongside this series, but for the sake of my sanity and just I'm juggling too many series as it is already, I'm going to be reading this one all the way through first, and then read and review the Alpha and Omega series. I just feel overall, when it comes to reading, filming, and uploading, it will be easier, for me at least. And I have read that series too, like I've read this one already, or at least the ones that are already out. And you can read one or the other without having knowledge about either of them. So because that's reading this one first and then going to Alpha and Omega. So we start this book off with Mercy getting a visit from Stefan the vampire. And Stefan has a little job to do and he needs Mercy to help him out. Stefan has to deliver a message from his mistress to a vampire visiting their turf. And this vampire, he didn't ask for permission to come onto their turf. He did not pay tribute, so Stefan needs to deliver a message. And Mercy is to join him in her coyote form, and what ought to have been a simple little favor to a friend turns into something so much more. She gets herself dragged into, once again, a huge mess. A mess that could prove very troublesome, not just for her and the werewolves or the fae, but to the supernatural community as a whole if it is not stopped. So these stakes are high. And naturally there's quite a few other little smaller things going on alongside this, but that's the general plot of the book. So overall, I thought this was a good book. I thought it was a good addition to the series, a good second book in the series, and just another thing I love about this series. I don't know if this is a common thing in urban fantasy. I'm still kind of delving into the world of urban fantasy. So this could be the norm, it could not be, I don't know. But one thing I like about this series is how each major plot does kind of stay within its own book. Like, there are things linking the books, obviously, but how am I going to phrase this? I feel that each book could stand on its own very well. Like, if you were to stop in the series because you just didn't want to continue, you aren't really left with huge cliffhangers. For example, the issue with, are the werewolves gonna out themselves? The whole werewolf drug thing in the last book, that was wrapped up in the first one. The issue with this vampire is wrapped up in this one. Again, there are some things kind of left undone to kind of go on to the further books, but all like the major things are wrapped up in the span of one book. I believe that's how it was in the other books too, but it's been like about a year since I've read any of them, so I'm kind of iffy on it. But from what I remember, the other books are of the same vein, which I like. I enjoy that. As much as I love my young adult trilogies and stuff, where everything is closely linked together, I do like how things can stand alone in these books. It's a nice little change of pace. And that's really all I feel comfortable saying without going into spoilers. Just overall, I enjoyed this book and I am pumped to move on to book 3. And so far, this series is something that I highly recommend to people who love urban fantasy, who love paranormal stuff. Just, if that's right up your alley, give this series a shot. So, if you have not read Bloodbound yet and have any intention of doing so, I do highly suggest you click away now and come back after you catch up because we're going into spoiler territory. So, I still adore all the characters in this book, just everyone is so distinct and entertaining and fun to read. I like how Kyle has come around a bit. You know, the shock of finding out that his boyfriend is a werewolf, I can't blame him for pulling back a bit because that's a big thing to find out. But it warmed my heart to see him come around and especially be there for Warren after he was injured. It made me happy. It made me happy. I love Warren and Kyle and they're both fantastic on their own and I ship them. Littleton as I guess I could call him an antagonist for this book, was terrifying. He is not someone I would want to face. And the fact that Marcella, am I saying her name right? I think I am, wanted another one of these sorcerer vampires created, horrifying. It's like, you saw the chaos that this one was bringing about. What makes you think or even want to consider controlling it? Just the power struggle with the vampires and all that fascinated me. Just Marcella, she is also one of those, I'm not sure if I could label her an antagonist. Like, I wouldn't consider her an enemy per se. Like, she certainly doesn't like Mercy, but she doesn't seem as much of an antagonist as Littleton did, or even as Andre did, since Andre is the one who turned Littleton. But I definitely wouldn't consider her a good guy either. So she's just kind of that awkward in-between that I don't have a name for. But she is just one of those in-between characters that I love to hate. Like, I don't like her just because of her actions and how she treats Mercy and how she would kill Mercy if given the chance. But at the same time, just how she is done. I can appreciate it, and I love how she is done. And just, I love having those I love to hate you characters. And just another thing that I love about this series is just how careful everyone has to be. Like, yeah, the werewolves are known to the public now, but only a select few. Those who are in control of themselves, those who are in respectable positions, such as Adam, or the mercenaries from the last book, whose names I can't remember. Just, they are careful on how they present themselves. They're keeping some intel close to themselves so that the public does not panic. If they truly knew how violent werewolves could be, they probably wouldn't be welcomed as well. Kind of like how the Fae, when they were revealing themselves to the public, they revealed the more harmless of them. So the werewolves are doing something similar. Some of the more respectable members of the community have been revealed. There's still quite a few in hiding. And they're just still at that awkward stage where they have to be really careful because the public is a fickle thing. Because, they police themselves. They aren't perfect at it, but they keep the more dangerous of them on a tight leash, or they take them out. Meanwhile, everyone's trying to keep the vampires hush-hush, because no matter how they spin it, they probably will never be able to make the vampires look good. So better to keep them hush-hush on the down low. But yeah, situations like this Littleton situation could potentially bring all three groups down. Because since the public doesn't believe in vampires, that leaves Fae, very twisted human, or werewolf. And if humans start going after Fae, the Grey Lords are going to respond violently in kind, and just, it's a messy situation. You gotta be careful on who they send, because also, in Mercy's case, if something happens to her, like if the vampires attack her, or she dies because of a vampire, the werewolves aren't going to be happy. Bran is not going to be happy. And vampires can't really afford a fight against all the werewolves, because Z has a fondness for Mercy. I'm sure the Fae would get involved in just so much, subtle and, I guess I could call it political, tiptoeing around things. And just, I find it fascinating to read about and just think out on, okay, how can this work? These people can't get involved because of XYZ. If these people get involved, this could happen. I love having to think through that. I love having to have the pieces fall into place with me as they do with Mercy as I read. Just, I love it when it comes together. I love it when Mercy comes to the realization, and therefore the reader comes to the realization that this is how things have to happen for everything to work out, to limit the amount of damage done on any side. And just, I don't know, I just really love that. And despite all that, despite everything, despite all these ties and stuff, I don't find it complicated, which I like. It's just that right level of complicated where it's like, okay, I don't have to overthink. I don't have to give myself a headache working through things. Because when I'm reading to escape. I'm reading to have fun. I don't want to have to think too much or put too much thought into something. But I like to be able to do enough thinking so that I'm actively engaged in my book. If that makes sense. And just, I love how these books have managed to do that. It's enjoyable. Overall, this series is awesome. And yeah, that's all I can think of saying without going into more finer plot points, like some of the more minor things that happened. But yeah, overall, great book, great addition to the series, and I very much look forward to continuing with this series. And yeah, that is it for this video, and I hope to see you guys next time.